Top 5 running back free agents. I'm doing this video first, this position first, because I want to talk about running backs before any of these teams start franchise tagging running backs and absolutely crushing my dreams, because we have such a great running back class. Big running back classes are literally my favorite because there's such a wide range of outcomes. Whereas with wide receivers changing locations, it can definitely affect their fantasy value, but it's so much different with running backs. Running backs changing locations can completely flip the landscape of fantasy football. The right opportunity can help a running back flip to an absolutely insane season. Hello, Saquon Barkley. Or it can bring a running back that everyone just wrote off back to being a weekly top 15 option. Hello, Javonte Williams. So let's talk running backs. How am I ranking the top 5 free agents on the market? Will their teams retain them, or will we see them move on? And what can you expect from a fantasy perspective? If you want me to do a video ranking number 6 through 10 running backs, drop a comment for me. Now let's go ahead and dive right in. This one was tough for me because I love Breece Hall, but I am a big Kenneth Walker defender because this postseason run without Zach Charbonnet has been all the justification of why he absolutely deserves the top 3 down back spot available. But I do still give the edge slightly to Breece Hall. The fact that Breece Hall has been able to produce anything in the shackles of the Jets is a miracle in itself. And if he gets released from those shackles, I do think that we might be talking about a Saquon Barkley level of a turnaround. I'm not calling him Saquon Barkley, but the storyline does fit a guy that just needs to get out of New York. Logic says the Jets should let Hall go, and that's what a logical team would do, right? They have no quarterback. They likely will not have a quarterback, again, that is actually super reliable. They absolutely gutted their defense. They know that they are not in a position to be able to compete. It makes zero logical sense to give a long-term deal to a running back when they are nowhere near being able to compete. But why on earth would we expect the Jets to do anything logical? So there's really 3 scenarios here. One, they franchise tag Hall because they can't work out a deal and they just want to try and make it work, and Hall has to stay another year in New York. 2, they franchise tag and trade Hall because he is the top back on the market. It's silly to just let him walk and not try to get something out of it when you can argue for a very good draft pick. Or 3, they just let him walk. It is possible that the Jets throw enough money at him, which again is stupid, but again, I would not put it past them. But it is possible that they throw enough money at him to make him stay. As Myles Garrett, there is always a price. But realistically, Hall should want to get out of New York. So again, realistically, the only path to him staying is the Jets franchise tagging. Otherwise, Breece Hall hits the market. There are plenty of teams that could use a true lead back. Kansas City is the top choice here. They are often projected to draft a running back. We know that they will do that. And if they can adjust and get the money, though, Breece Hall would be a great fit. The Vikings are also a great landing spot, in my opinion. I do think the Vikings will make a major addition at running back this offseason, whether it's via free agency or the draft. They have Aaron Jones. And they have Jordan Mason in contract, both of them. So that's not an issue. They're not desperate, but that's a Band-Aid. That is not a long-term solution. And quite frankly, it was not effective last season. Jones is at an age cliff, unfortunately. I love him. He is my Packers. But it's been a couple of years now since we have seen him at a high level. It's hit every now and then, but long-term, I would not rely on him as a 3-down back in particular for an entire season. Jordan Mason is not a 3-down back, unfortunately. It was an ineffective committee. I think they target a running back to give them another dynamic playmaker to try and mask this whole quarterback issue. Houston is another good spot. I love Woody Marks. I would love nothing more than for him to outright earn that RB1 job. But we've seen the Texans upgrade over rookie breakouts, so we also have no proof that Joe Mixon can actually run at this point. So yeah, grabbing a running back, making a big splash in free agency, that's a very Houston thing. So Breece Hall would be very on brand for the Texans. My opinion of Kenneth Walker in free agency has flipped by force. Unfortunately, before Zach Charbonnet's injury, I felt very confident that the Seahawks would let Kenneth Walker walk in free agency. No negative towards him at all. Again, I love him, and I wish that Seattle would just let him go, be a true 3-down bell cow. That is what he deserves. The version of him that we saw this postseason is his true identity. He is so talented. But after that display this postseason, he is running neck and neck with Breece Hall. I don't know that Seattle would want to give a long-term contract that would rival what other teams would be willing to offer him after that level of performance and knowing how high his value can be, especially when you have Zach Charbonnet in contract and you do have money to spend, but you probably want to spend it in more areas of need that are harder to replace. But after Zach Charbonnet's injury, that changes everything here. It is tough to imagine that Charbonnet will be ready to start the season. An ACL tear this late means more than likely a mid-season return. If they let Walker go, they would have to bring in another running back to handle 3-down work until Zach Charbonnet is healthy. That's a big risk, right? Because it could extend past that mid-season mark. You never know. So Charbonnet also is expected to be a free agent in 2027. How does he return from the ACL injury, and is he well enough in order to sign a long-term deal? So honestly, it just makes the situation kind of murky. So this is really more of a long-term question of what they're doing at running back. So Seattle keeping Kenneth Walker is actually pretty critical now. They don't have any money issues. They can absolutely decide to franchise tag him and then figure out what they're doing on both Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet in 2027. Or they could just go ahead, commit to Walker, do the long-term deal because the timeline is just so shaky with Zach Charbonnet. You are coming off of a Super Bowl win, retain your assets, and continue to make this run. In terms of landing spots, if they were to let him go, he would have the same opportunities as Breece Hall, but realistically, again, I think the Seahawks will have Walker on roster in 2026 because of this injury. Oh, the Cowboys are funny. They are funny. Jerry Jones is funny. I will give them credit where credit is due, though. We laugh about their non-existent, most of the time, free agency moves, but they did excellent in getting extreme value on Javonte Williams, and it took a lot of guts. It took a lot of guts to literally bypass a wide variety of excellent backs in the draft at value and stick to their guns on trusting Javonte Williams as the lead back. It looked dumb at the time. And technically speaking, there was still some foolishness in there because they drafted Jaden Blue before other strong running backs, but hey, it worked out. And the trade for George Pickens, excellent. Again, like, you're making moves, Jerry. Look at you. Unfortunately, though, none of that worked out to get them to the playoffs. And we know exactly what they need to do to turn things around. They have to get better on defense. And I do still think their offensive line needs work. Javonte Williams and George Pickens are luxuries that are amazing, but they ultimately cannot get you to a Super Bowl when we just watched two dominant defenses that cleared the way to the Super Bowl. The previous year, Kansas City, Philadelphia, excellent defenses. Defenses win championships. A great offense, a great quarterback, great wide receivers. Yay, but you gotta have a defense. Dallas, you have to. Dallas has to do something to get this team in a position to actually compete. Dallas has been very vocal that they want to re-sign Javonte Williams, and I do actually believe them. I believe it. And we have heard rumors that George Pickens is going to get franchise tagged. Now, supposedly, the tag for Pickens might be a tag and trade situation, which does make sense. But despite the fact that they need to spend money on defense, I do think that retaining Javonte Williams will happen, especially when you consider the fact that any running back that they would target in free agency to replace him would realistically cost about the same amount of money. I think it is possible to get a cost-effective long-term deal with Javonte Williams. He had a fantastic season, and the Cowboys took a chance on committing to him as the lead back, so there's got to be good rapport there. I would not be shocked if Williams' preference is to stay there rather than test the market. If he does exit, I think that he would like to go to a competing team. Again, he does no struggles with workload or anything. He had a fantastic season. The only thing I can imagine is that he wants to go somewhere and win. So maybe a team like Kansas City. Again, he will be a cost-effective sign compared to Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, so that does make him an appealing ad. Everything we said about Javonte Williams could also apply to Travis Etienne. There is a gap between him and Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, so he will be one of the more cost-effective true three-down backs. There is a clear tier gap between him and the guys after him who just aren't as proven from a three-down perspective. So if a team is looking to upgrade to a three-down running back but doesn't want to pay that top dollar, Travis Etienne is a great ad. I know a lot of fantasy managers, you might want them to you might want the Jags to hand over the keys to Bashal Tutin, but in my opinion, I really don't think that moving forward with Tutin as the three-down back would be the correct move here. They would probably have to add someone in free agency to play a complementary role. So again, you're going to have to spend money anyway. Etienne is a more complete back, and they're in a prime position to continue their movement upward. Retaining Etienne would be worth it. The connection between him and Trevor Lawrence has always been there, but it really was never tapped into its full potential until the arrival of Liam Cohen. Fantastic coach. The numbers might not jump out at you on paper, but the usage was the key here. 6 touchdowns through the air in big key situations. He was critical to the offense, so I expect them to at least try to retain him. Plus, this running back class is interesting because it offers multiple high-end options, and again, in Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, and a strong tear down with, again, Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne, and then a wide variety of cost-effective backs. So that should actually help Travis Etienne's contract remain at a reasonable level because there's so many guys below him, Rachaad White, Rico Dowdle, Brian Thomas Jr., and so on, Brian Robinson, and so on and so forth, that it's going to keep the price at a pretty reasonable level to where the Jags can work out a long-term deal. This might be a little bit controversial, but Rachaad White is my 5th ranked running back. Hear me out on this one. I make my free agency list as soon as the fantasy season is over, so I have gone back and forth on this a solid 10 plus times very easily. You can make arguments for a lot of guys like Rico Dowdle, Brian Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco, Tyler Algier, but all of those guys have one thing in common. They're all kind of the same back. Early down types that are still very well-rounded. No issue there because they can pass block, they can be trusted with checkdowns, no issue. They are 3-down backs. But they aren't dynamic pass catchers in the way that Rachaad White is. It gives him a slight edge over that group because they're all very similar. And a team looking for versatility as a receiving option can turn to Rachaad White. So I just think it gives him like a tiny leg up there. And I feel like we give Rachaad White a lot of grief about his lack of success on the ground. But oddly enough, he does actually grade out very well overall as a runner. Outside of the top options, obviously, Hall, Walker, Williams, Etienne. If you are looking for a running back that you can lean on the ground and as a dynamic pass catcher, it is literally him and Kenneth Gainwell in terms of the way that they actually grade out overall. So White can transition to a team where he can be the lead back in a technical committee where, they're not overusing him. There's a inexpensive guy that's getting goal line carries, perhaps a Washington with Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, who can be used at the goal line in early downs, but cannot be trusted as a pass blocker. But again, because he won't be the top paid option, I do think that he'll be a very coveted option because of that versatility and because he'll be coming in well below market value of the top options there. So do not be shocked if Rachaad White finds himself in a similar situation to that of Javonte Williams, where he just outright earns a clear 3-down back role and offers significant fantasy value for us. That wraps things up. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Again, if you are interested in my thoughts on running back free agents that are ranked 6 through 10, drop a comment. Let me know if you want another video on that. Otherwise, stick around. I've got more positional videos coming. I've got more landing spot videos coming, and we'll be getting news in terms of free agency moves very here. We're closing in on it, so stick around.